All right, welcome back to Talk Dead to Me. It has literally been years, but thank you guys so much for coming back and listening to this very special, possibly final, possibly not because there's spin-offs episode. I am joined by two of my favorite people in the world, as always, the lovely Alexandra August, followed by Woody Tondorf, the man, the myth, the Woody. Hi guys, how you doing?
So glad to be back.
Good to see you.
We decided to come back with Talk Dead to Me. You know, we took a hiatus because there were some job changes and, you know, we had other things going on, but we decided that The Walking Dead was so important to you guys and important to us that we wanted to do this final episode. And we had a lot to talk about, obviously. And people would always, you know, hit us up on social media about how they miss it and how it used to be on their Spotify Wrapped, which was always so flattering. And, you know,
thank you guys.
Yeah, it was really nice. So for those who only listen to one podcast a year, this will be on your Spotify Wrap next year. I think. Just keep listening to it. But, you know, we have some great segments coming up. We have an amazing interview with one of the cast members, Alex Sgambati, who played Jules. And we have a lot of other fun predictions and all sorts of segments. So stick around through the whole thing. It's going to be great. Without further ado.
You just like led into this being like, oh, we took a little break. Like you didn't kick me and Alexandra to the fucking curb. The first chance you got when you started looking at some metrics and going like, you know what? I don't need these two people who I have easy chemistry with. How about I just take my Johnny Odell charm and just talk to these movers and shakers in Hollywood, the people who are up there on the call sheets, and only now
actors
at the end of the world do you come crawling back. And you know what, Johnny? It feels good.
That's absolutely right. I punted you guys off the bridge like Baxter from Anchorman. And now here I am pulling you out of the river, and we are here to do this podcast. I stuck a microphone in both your faces.
Yes. I couldn't stay away. I was like, yes, no, I want to get hurt again.
Let's start with some winners and losers. I don't remember if we had a song for that, but Woody, would you like to offer one? Did we?
I think Woody sang.
Yeah, let me just try one off the dome. I don't even remember how it goes.
People are winning.
Oh, that's right.
Winning, the people are losing, but it's The Walking Dead, so everyone turns.
Rah. Amazing.
Wait. We're the ones who get to live. How do I put that in a rhyme? I don't know. Anyways, let's keep going.
Oh, man. Do you think they said that enough at the end?
Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
It was like 20 times. Incredible. So, Woody, speaking of you, and we do love to do that, why don't you give us your winner and loser from this episode?
My winner is everyone who makes it to the epilogue. Congratulations. You've made it. You are the best at the apocalypse. Because here, the thing that I loved about it is like 1 year later, first of all, everyone looks amazing. Like all the outfits, perfect. Everybody just looks, Ezekiel looks incredible. Father Gabriel always just looks like an absolute Western badass now, with like the hat and his whole deal, the Roman collar, fantastic. Everyone just looks great. They look clean. Everything is very bright and colorful. There has apparently been, in the years since they blew up the Commonwealth, no death, no destruction, no drama whatsoever. Everything has just been fine. So congratulations. You had to go through all of that. And now that you've survived it, you're the ones who get to live. The problem is you have to say that roughly 17 times every day. But, you know, you get the windmill is colorful and everybody's really happy. So I was overjoyed.
I also agreed with that. I was actually surprised with how many people did make it. Like, I was like, Jerry's dying, Ezekiel's dying, all these things. Jerry
lives.
The guy who I think you were convinced maybe every episode that he was 1000% going to die.
He was the Davos.
And he somehow made it.
Every week we would go in to watch the episodes and you'd have already seen it, drink. And I would be like, I don't think it. I think this is the week. I think they fucking kill him this week, dude. Sweet Jerry's going to die and I'm going to cash out on the show. And you're like, well, we'll see. My loser is, I feel so bad for her. The lady who gets eaten when Carol and the squad reach the hospital lobby while Daryl's giving blood. And they're like, what was that noise? Let's go check it out. And some lady is just getting absolutely chowed on. And everyone's kind of like, well, it's too late for who is Cynthia? Who was she? Doesn't matter. We got to go. Let's get back out. We got important characters. We got to live through this. It was tough. That was a tough way to go. I also wondered, like, what were you doing where everybody else was watching and be like, oh no, Cynthia, don't open the door. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think she had a name. I think it was sad what happened to Extra 14. And, no one wants to go out that way. If I feel like a horde is about to consume me, like that's like a 90%, even a 50% possibility, I'm taking myself out. I'm sorry. I'm finding the sharpest thing and plunging myself into it. Because I would rather do that than just get torn apart. Because, they don't start with your head or anything. They found like the most vulnerable part and they just keep chowing down. It's like those praying mantis videos that are horrifying.
Like the amount of skin that we have seen so just stretchily pulled off very slowly. Thank you, Mr. Nicotero. Yeah, I'm not going out death by zombie. That's like in The Contender when they talk about gutting somebody in the belly and how it's like the slowest and most incurable way to die. Like, no, same knife right here or.
All right, I'm going to go with my winners and losers. My winner, it was similar to Woody's, but I'm going to change it just for you guys. My winner is Rick Grimes because he was the LeBron of this team, okay? Bear with me, non-sports fans. He was the star of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he left to go to Miami, came back, left to go to the Lakers. Each time he would leave a franchise, they would be in shambles for years until they like built up a better team. And, they didn't really miss a step. I mean, Rick's kids, Judith and RJ, both lived. His best friend, Daryl, lived. Maggie lived. He left. And you think the whole show would go to shit, kind of like when Michael Scott left The Office, But it didn't. It's great. And I think he won.
Johnny, I just want to be clear that your winner for the finale is Rick Grimes, the guy who we find barefoot on a beach with a bunch of like half sunken zombie heads. The man who clearly
looks upset about it,
like several assholes.
Hey,
something is wrong with his right foot.
He smiled. I don't know what was in that helicopter because they're like, hey, we found you. And then he looks up and he smiles. So, maybe Jadis is in it. Maybe Shane's ghost is like hanging out the side of the window. I don't know what's happening, but he smiles and that gives me hope.
I was surprised. I was kind of surprised that he did show up in the finale, even though I'd kind of, knew I figured something would happen. I thought maybe they would figure out a way to do it in like a penultimate episode or something. But I liked the epilogue and I liked how they put a teeny tiny little story in that by showing here's this. There's like, Sean's alive, Rick's alive, they're on each other's tails, but we've also given you a split timeline. I'm like, that's a lot to pack in. And I think he was smiling at maybe that he was at Philadelphia, because I think that's where he is. Or that the whole plan was maybe to escape, have them chase him, and then get in a helicopter, knock out the pilot, who's got a helicopter now.
Yeah, we find out that he's been an Eagles fan this whole time, and like Donovan McNabb and Deshaun Jackson are riding the helicopter, and he's like, yeah, I love those guys.
That tracks for Philadelphia sports fans.
My loser, and I might be getting this political theory wrong, but my loser is communism. Sorry, Pam, you tried it. It didn't work. From my understanding, it's like a skill-based society where the people in charge kind of make all the rules and have like a. Am I
more
getting that right?
Feudalism, which is, I mean, I think she marketed communism like it's all equal. We'll share resources. You do what you're good at because we have to do this. Like that is feudalism under the guise of communism. Communism should generally be a meritocracy because you need it, but it's also about equalizing everything and communing all your resources. And it seems like she was telling people that, but being a real good capitalist about it, because in the face of no regulation, she made that system benefit her the most.
Sounds like you know a lot about communism.
John. I got some questions about these political texts you're reading. Yeah, although that's a whole other podcast that I'd love to be like Johnny just says what he thinks political systems or like political scientist Johnny O'Dell is. Yeah, the Commonwealth on its face is a co-op, but really it's just like a super regimented capitalist like class like style. Like that's
I will say, like, one of my favorite scenes is when Pamela, who unfortunately doesn't die, they give her Sebastian's fate from the comics where she's just imprisoned. And I like how she's like, well, good luck making your own community where people don't want to be janitors and they don't want to be like the people who like clean and build sewers. I thought that was kind of funny. She's just like, yeah, good luck, buddy. Trying to make a community. It's not easy. Maybe don't shoot kids. But otherwise, she's like, I'm just trying my best.
She wasn't aiming for Judith. Judith ran into that bullet literally. Like, I'm not saying she should have been shooting anybody, but I'm not going to, intent over impact.
Two super quick things. What is it with Grimes' children and just running into the path of bullets?
Yeah.
I was overjoyed with Pamela lecturing Daryl and Carol about making tough choices in groups and leadership. They're like, lady, you clearly do not know who the fuck you're talking to.
You
like
know how many children I have killed?
You know how many children I've had to murder to save the group?
Carol was a queen. Like Daryl ran several post-apocalyptic paramilitary groups. Like, these people absolutely know how to do this way better than you, lady. Like, thanks for the advice. Really appreciate it. Enjoy your rotting years. We used to do this with this dude Negan, and now he's our lapdog. He'll be coming.
And he gets his own spinoff,
like,
so play your cards right.
He'll come visit you in prison.
Who's your winner?
Yeah.
My winner is fashion, y'all. I mean, from all over the place, everyone. It was just... I have not seen a fashion episode this fashion forward and that served fashion better than Rest in Peace. You have from everything to the Whisperer outerwear that Aaron was just playing off. Like, that was just a lovely pattern. I thought, like, that is a lovely evolution. Negan, like, turning down the mask, but the mask being like a durable tool and actually like kind of framed his head and had some nice like sort of like aging going on in a weird way. Yeah. And then like Eugene on the braid front, first of all, he's running around in battle with a flawless fishtail down to his back that, as you can see in the notes, defies physics. This much hair might, like, if it's that long, it's going to make a bigger braid, but there's no way your tiny, like, rat tail is making a 3-foot long braid down your back that's like an inch thick. It's just not happening. So I was very impressed. And then, like, Michonne as a samurai. And Woody, you were right. The sort of like little near future sort of Star Trek suggestive, like, angular, like sort of like angled uniforms that Ezekiel was wearing.
Perfect. It just looks so great. Also, like, Mercer's pulling off the suit really well. He's not like in a suit and tie. He's in like a regular like crew neck because he's a man of the people. Yep. I had forgotten about who made Michonne's like awesome.
Oh my God. I think
football helmet, samurai.
The Dora Milaje made it, like, I'm pretty sure.
On this, okay, so like fashion in general on this show, like to the point that the walker that Michonne ices at the end has like decent pants. Like those are some nice dockers. The belt goes with it. Very few holes.
It's true.
It's great.
Who's your loser, Alexandra?
My loser, in fact, my losers are Luke and Jules for getting all the way to the finale, like traveling in a pair that definitely they're not my favorite. Luke is a musician first and a fighter second. So these guys, in my opinion, really didn't stand much of a chance. They made it all the way there only to crap out in a particularly violent and sad way at the beginning of the finish line. And on top of that, the fact that Dan Fogler's credit overruns like the hospital scene right after he dies. Like he dies, Magna kisses him, they sob over it, which was actually very moving. I was surprised at how much like I teared up at that. Like that was beautiful. And these shows, you get kind of numb to the death scenes just because it's tragedy porn after a while, but that really, really moved me.
Yeah.
So,
Dead Fogler.
And after they amputated his leg, like they amputated his leg first.
One of my, with like a bone saw.
The rough road there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in a lot of, he did not go quietly. One of my favorite things is when they like, when he like does the like close eyes thing, like when a character does that to like die and they immediately just stick the knife right in their brain. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. He's just passed out. They're like, oh, his eyes are closed. I'm like, you could have recovered from losing a leg.
Johnny, I've often thought about that. Like, oh, you were way eager to just stab this person right in the head. But then I had that moment of like, you're saying goodbye a second time, and that's extra hard. So I understand why they're trying to like do it quickly because it's kind of like you're in that, but like you really felt it in that scene.
Yeah. Also, in that scene, I learned that Daryl was not close to Luke because he just is like dying horrendously, just feet away, and Daryl's like, "Anyway, Judith, feeling better?" Also,
he's this short of like turning over his shoulder, being like, "Do you mind?"
All right, that brings us to one of my favorite segments. Dunked on.
Ooh, dunked on.
Woody, who would you say got dunked on the hardest in this incredible finale?
Oh man, there's so many. My honorable mention is Maggie on Lance, because Maggie is itching to murder somebody that entire episode. And she's just finally like, I'm just gonna shoot somebody. I either get this dude who I've wanted to shoot, or I get Pam. I don't care. I'm murdering. So I got this gun all the way up here. I'm gonna use it. But my real one is the variant walker on the hospital glass. There's a moment where they're aware of variant walkers because now it's where we are on the show. But it's just like tapping against the glass with this kind of goofy, doofy walker expression, be like, "Hey, I'm gonna get you!" And it's just in that moment, I'm just kind of like, "Oh my god, here we go!" And then just smashes through, and it's all done.
It's a good callback because in season 1, there was, I don't know if you remember, when they were stuck in Atlanta downtown, there were walkers who were using like rocks and things, and then someone pointed out, and I think maybe Robert was like, oh, they're not that smart, and then they switched it and they never. But now we have like the new evolved walkers. That's like one of the themes of the season, is that they have these variants. You can tell we're in season 11 when we're talking about variant walkers.
I can't wait to talk about variant walkers with you guys. I want to say that for later though.
Okay.
I don't want to step on it. It's, oh boy. Johnny, who got dunked on?
It's Rosita, but she did it in the most badass way possible. I mean, this woman miraculously saves a baby who didn't get bitten. Rosita made it all the way through the series. First introduced to her back in season 4, and has made it all this way just to fall off a damn gutter into a pile of walkers. But unfortunately, the bite comes for all of us. They obviously gave her Andrea's death from the comics. For those who don't know, Andrea makes it really, really far, almost to the end, until she dies during a walker horde thing. And they have a bunch of people visit her, just that like happened to Rosita. If I was Rosita, I'd be like, I think a few more people could have visited me, but that's okay. You had like Maggie, Carol, Daryl was like in the hallway, just like, sorry. And then Eugene blubbering, and that was it. I'm like, really? Not Judith, not like anyone else? But that's okay.
I was like, wait a minute. Why did Daryl and Gabriel go ahead of her? Why is the woman holding a baby going last amidst the herd of walkers? Why wasn't she sandwiched? That I was like, wait a minute. All right. So in terms, yes, also with that.
Partially because Rosita is an absolute, like, through the progression of his character, like in season 11, like she is a unstoppable engine of destruction. Like she is like Earl hard. And like that moment when she just basically like pops up from the horde, that first home run swing that takes like 3 walker heads off, like I think that's my favorite like moment or like image from the whole finale.
To piggyback off of it, earlier in the episode when she saves Coco, I'm not sure how she found Coco, but when she finds Coco in that like horrific house filled with walkers, and she just goes John Wick on everyone's ass and kills them. Like when she just empties her clip into that walker who's already dead, just because she's so mad that someone would dare like, try to grab at her kid. That was sweet. I'm glad that they gave her like an honorable death. And I'm sure they were tempted to have an Abraham ghost with her as she was dying, because they tend to do that. Anytime someone dies, you got to bring a ghost back. But, maybe Michael Cudlitz was off doing something else. I don't know.
Well, Michael Cudlitz isn't going to stop by for the finale. I think not. But the one quick thing I did have my notes in there on the, like, as somebody who is the father of a toddler, you know how children's ears are quite delicate and gunshots are super loud. I just like it says something to Rosita's state of mind where she was like, immediately you've got to eliminate the threats in the room. But like she drops 4 into one walker, and I'm like, your child's eardrums. My runner-up for loser was Coco's eardrums.
That should have been your number 1. That's fantastic.
Why like those kids are screaming their heads off from like very loud gunshots going off is beyond me. But I mean, they were also crying because the walker was trying to get them too. But like, oh boy, I was, as a parent, I was like, oh, the ears. Oh no.
It's true. Alexandra, who got dunked on in your eyes?
It's a cross between Pamela and like capitalism in general. What I've liked about this series so much is because I've binged most of it. I haven't really watched it much week to week until the later seasons, and it feels, and I think I've said this before, like a flip book of human evolution. It's a really quick progression of like, cool, season 1 starts with like, we're all fucked. We're not the apex predators. We don't understand what's fighting us. We don't understand how to survive. Nobody likes each other. We're all fucking vulnerable, until we gradually learn how to like deal with the predators and get better hunting skills and adapt to our surroundings and create communities and figure out how to recreate humanity in a way that, serves the species and helps us survive without taking advantage of one another and doing so equitably. And I liked the fact that they finally come to, and like we encounter the villains are like every iteration of why that's bad. Like Rick creates a community that's more communal, and he meets Negan, who's like, no, the only way to win this and stay secure is through force and through tyranny, which there's a case to be made for that in the apocalypse. You need to make decisions quickly, and you want to have somebody who has clear ways of survival. So like, that's an idea that's been wrestled with like through each iteration of the show quite well, I find. And I liked the fact that the end of the series was like kind of less that sort of like totally terrifying tragic porn that like seasons 3 and 4 could be, but it was also just like kind of fitting for the times now, where you're dealing with people who have found a way in an area of no regulation to recreate something to which they are advantaged off of other people. When really this would be a great way to figure out things that are equitable for people, knowing because whenever there's inequity, it can shift. You're always going to be, even if you're extremely wealthy, your shit eventually could be taken away from you. So it's kind of better to meet in the middle. And I liked how Pamela managed to do that and was punished for it in a very evolved way. That's part of the completion of this series. Felt like this was the completion of that arc.
Yeah, we all know the Rictatorship is the best form of political philosophy in this world.
Don't always get a Rick, though, is the thing, but yeah.
True.
It's
I like
interesting
Negan's
to me, like-
philosophy. He's like, you're going to give me half your shit or I'm going to kill you. And people are like, okay, yeah, sounds good.
It's interesting the different like philosophical or like leadership signposts that you meet in each of the big bads and how they're looking at the world. Like Rick's philosophy and his worldview is changed and educated by the different characters that he meets along the way, like Herschel and all the other characters. But you meet like the governor has like a very certain way that he looks at the world and the way that he like talks to his group. Negan is a very specific mindset where it's like it's brutal, but it's very clear what his rules are. And they all have like varying things where like they work for it. But I was just thinking to myself, like, you put Pamela in a room with any of the big bads that we had met before, and they have her for breakfast. But part of her strength is that she's managed to build an organization around her and layers that allow her like philosophy and her leadership to basically like insulate herself between an army and everybody else who's grown accustomed to their lifestyle where they would rather not lose that than go out into
Status
the wilderness.
quo.
Which Rick's group always, or the survivors always basically like devolve whatever group into some like middle ground of just survival. Like they blow up every place except Alexandria.
It's true. I think we ran the gamut of every kind of, sort of government system that you can in The Walking Dead. It's interesting to see how everyone does it.
Especially communism, right, Johnny?
Yeah, communism, something I'm very educated about. All right, we're going to move on to another fun segment called Ship Watch, which Woody's adorable son has agreed to do the boat sounds intro for. And here it is.
Boat sound.
That was incredibly cute.
I give it a B+.
I can't believe you got him to say. Were those his first words?
Yep. This is
Wow.
We've been grooming him to say those words ever since he was a small child, being like, "Father, I'm an infant. Why are you recording this podcast? Does anybody actually care about it?" And I'm like, "It makes me happy."
You know, when I was
Like,
looking at the stats of it when I revived it, in its lifetime, we've had over 100,000 downloads of the podcast, which I think is really cool.
Oh, thank
So
you.
good-
Thank you, everyone who has listened. Mama Deadhead, shout out.
Mama Deadhead, who pulled the ultimate full circle moment and just took my job. You never see it coming. Probably not going to leave this in.
Johnny, this will make you. I don't
Mhm.
want to make you upset. She's doing a fantastic job.
I'm sure she is. Going from voicemail MVP to just taking my job completely. So
Success story.
yeah, no, I have kept up with the Walking Dead social media and it is fantastic. And I'm really happy for her. So good for her. All right.
You know who's big on the social media, and I do see you out there, and you're the only people who at me these days. My fellow shipmates on the USS Donnie. We're on ship watch. I got to talk about the finest ship to ever sail the Walking Dead seas, the USS Donnie. And you know what? We took one last voyage, and I got to tell you, I don't want to yell because my child is sleeping, but I was so furious because God damn it, there's clearly affection. They have a lovely hug. They both get to survive. He's back from doing his like frontier things. They have a very warm embrace. They're all like, "How are you doing, cowboy?" Pew, 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 pew. And like, but these two aren't fucking smooching a year after they've gone through all of this. If you guys aren't smooching, it's not going to happen. It's never happened in between. They had every opportunity. Close the door on the Carol Daryl thing by saying, "You're my best friend. I love you too." It's beautiful. But I craved that like one final exclamation point, and they denied me that. And that took me on a sour note through the rest of the finale. And I was sad, but I was also happy to see them together because they're so cute and they're just the best. So the USS Donnie sails off into an uncertain sunset, but you know what? It saw its way through.
It's true. I don't even have a ship watch because I know you've been so invested in this one and I didn't want to make one up, but I was sad for you. I was sad for the fans. So a lot of people rooting for it. Yeah, especially when Carol is permanently friend zoned. But I think it's maybe
Daryl tried his hand at love and got a dog out of it, which is great. But his girlfriend tried to kill him and almost got him inducted into a cult. So maybe he's like, maybe I'm done with love.
But like, I also do not want to see Daryl kiss anyone until after a scene in which I have been able to watch him, like, PG-13, take an actual shower. When I can have like visible verified evidence that everything he has been wearing is fucking fresh and he has washed himself and his body odor, which I'm guessing there's not a tremendous amount of deodorant and he's an active person, whereas all that is fresh, then I will be like, yes, kiss whomever you want, sir.
He's got a new road poncho. He looks fantastic. He's clearly in a new state. They are all
less
washing
hair in
now.
his face.
It is hot and cold showers for everybody. It's excellent.
I almost think they would have wrapped them up as a couple had he not had a spinoff coming. And I don't know how much you guys know about the spinoff, but it takes place in France somehow. He told Jimmy Kimmel that Norman Reedus, not Daryl Dixon, he's not real, that somehow I get put there. I don't go there on my free will, end quote. So someone takes him to France and there's castles involved and I'm excited. So I would imagine maybe they give him a love interest there because it was supposed to be him and Carol, and now it's just him.
I like Carol. I like Daryl and Connie, and I like that more than I'm a Carol shipper, that's for sure. And I like what they brought out in one another, but I don't know that I believe that he would have stuck around anywhere. I think Daryl's always going to be a bit of a wanderer.
The idea of like having a romantic love interest or like a partner that you then like leave behind to go in your spinoff is going to be an interesting one to address when we get into the Maggie Negan spinoff.
Well, speaking of Maggie Negan, that was part of your ship watch, was it not, Alexandra?
It was, and I'm kind of like not feeling good about it, but I like a redemption arc. I've enjoyed the evolution of Negan and Maggie's friendship because from a narrative standpoint, the fact that Maggie did not just unload every single clip she had in him the minute she saw him again or in prison, or the minute she could, I've always found a little bit unbelievable, just considering how extreme Glenn's death is meant to be. And why I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I've loved this man since Denny Duquette. And so I'm always happy to see more of him. I would have been bummed had he left. Shout out Grace. I would have been really bummed had he left at season 8. And I've loved watching him redeem himself and like make friends with Carol. I think you all know how excited I've been whenever they share a screen together. And I like the idea of a story of like, it's, even though part of me doesn't quite buy it, it has been very compelling to watch Maggie and Negan figure out a way to coexist to the point where like, I believe it now. I was very pleasantly surprised at how this worked out. And I don't know that I'll ever be okay with them, smooching, but what they're going to be in New York for a while. I'm a little nervous for where that's going to go.
I am going to cringe through the space-time continuum the first time they smooch. And if you do not think these two are smooching at some point, who to be clear? Negan has a wife and child. Maggie will never get over the specter of her dead husband. These two are going to smooch at some point. It's just a TV rule, and I need you all to just accept it in your hearts. The sun will rise the next day, but God, I'll be with you there just vomiting.
Woody, you had a really fun segment to launch us off of. And
yeah, so you've come this far, viewer. Thank you. Listener, rather, this is not a visual medium. This is for your ear holes. This beer is excellent, by the way. So the Commonwealth gets blown up with roughly, I don't know how much fuel or where like that is.
All of it. Every ounce of fuel left on Earth.
They must have, and forgive me, I'm sure please don't at me on various social media. I'm sure they had something where they're like, and here is our giant warehouse where we have all the fuel things. I'm sorry I missed it. So they blow up the Commonwealth, but they do it by playing Cult of Personality, forgive me, I forget, but by which artist. And that is the signal that when the track ends, the connectors go, whole thing blows up.
Mousetrap.
My question is, starting with you, Alexandra, and then on to you, Johnny, what would be your play this track, and then when it ends, we blow up the entirety of the Commonwealth?
Okay, I'm paralyzed by choice, so this went down to 3, but I'll run through them with a quickness. Number 1, Sweet Child of Mine. Number 2, War of 1812 Overture. Just a classic things are exploding track. It's never not satisfying, and it's, I believe, public domain, so very cheap to license. And just because I wanted something that was just, I don't know, like a little bit more me, Green Day when I come around.
The zombies are like,
One of my
oh, this
favorite.
is fine. This is a pretty chill song. We're not going to blow up to this, right?
I mean, if anybody's gonna like grunge rock, it's gonna be Walkers.
You know, you could do another metal song like "Down with the Sickness" comes to mind. I think that would be pretty
Good.
apropos. Or you could troll them like Guantanamo Bay style and just do, you know, Firework or Party in the USA. But I think "Down with the Sickness" makes the most sense, and it would be the most hardcore way to go out. But if you die,
If they had played Party in the USA,
Party in
I
the
would.
USA.
Oh my god,
That's so good.
Just really quick note, I think we can now forgive that CGI deer scene because they were clearly saving up their CGI budget for that explosion. It was the most impressive piece of CGI the show has ever put out. It was the best. So, Woody, what is your song?
I'm gonna say it's two. First one, "Purple Rain" by Prince.
Oh, so good.
And then just because we're in the holiday spirit and just to timestamp this recording, Trans-Siberian Orchestra's "Silver Bells" or "Chorus of the Bells."
Chorus of the Bells.
their number one hit.
Oh my God, that's so good. We're now going to go to a very special guest. We've had her on before. She plays Jules. You know her, you love her. It's Alex Sgambati. She is a delight to talk to, and she had a lot of great insight on what really went on behind the scenes of those last few days on The Walking Dead. So here it is right now. Alex, it's so good to have you back on this show.
So good to be back. Hi.
Yeah, it was a big surprise seeing you in The Walking Dead in those last few episodes. I remember last time I chatted with you, I asked if we'd see you in the final season. And I think you told me to ask Scott Gimple, or you said you weren't sure. So when did you find out? Like, walk me through you coming back.
Oh my gosh. It's funny because I found out as I was coming out of having had COVID the only time I've had it.
My God.
Because with the show, they tell you, they don't usually give you a lot of heads up.
Mhm.
And I got a call in January of 2022, and I had just had COVID, and I had been hoping for that call. And so I think the day that they sent me a test was the first day I tested negative.
Oh my God. Thank God.
A real blessing, because if I, they were very strict. So if I had
Yeah.
COVID, I wouldn't have been back. So I found out last year, right before I went to film.
That's crazy. So you shot it earlier this year, like January, February.
Yeah, we were there. We were in the hotel, I think, for like 3 months. They had
Oh
me
my
and
God.
Nadine and Carrie and Cameron all on like separate floors in the same hotel. And I was there January through March. And
Wow. So you just have to stop everything in your life and just kind of go, right?
yes, 100%. But I mean, it's very worth it. So I was
Of course.
happy to do it. Yeah. No, yeah, you have to stop everything in your life. And then, they put you up in a hotel, and my mom came and visited, and I bonded hardcore with Cass because we couldn't go out and do things in the world for fear of getting COVID.
Right.
But we were cleared to hang out with each other. So basically all my time was spent, hanging out with Cooper and Cassidy and the whole crew.
Okay. So you shoot then, and
Mhm.
I heard it was a pretty grueling schedule for like, the Lauren Cohens of the world, the Jeffrey Dean Morgans who are in like every episode. Like they just kind of marathoned it, right?
That's my understanding, just back to back because of the fear of getting COVID.
Mhm.
And because they had to shut down so many times, I imagine for Lauren and JDM and all them that they were just like constantly working.
Did they tell you up front that, okay, here's Jules's little story arc and you're going to end up dying at the end, or did they not know? Like, how did it all play out? I mean, as much as you can tell me.
Flying blind. Yeah, no, flying totally blind. I would just wait for the scripts to come out and just hold my breath. And I was hoping at least to be able to be in the finale, because like, how cool is that to be able to wrap up something that's been on the air and been so epic for 11 seasons.
Right.
So yeah, no, I would get the script and that would tell me what was going to happen in the next episode, and I'd get that pretty quickly, like right before we would go to shoot. So no, I didn't. I found out very last minute and was very happy to at least have been in the finale. Yeah.
Yeah. Luke only survived you by 2 minutes or something. It was like the Notebook.
I know. I know.
You guys kind of went out together.
We really did. We really did. And that was like, honestly, that death scene, maybe it's messed up, but that was one of the most fun days of filming I've ever had. And when Greg Nicotero was like, okay, so this is the gag we're going to pull, and this is like what we're going to do with the special effects makeup. You're going to be hooked up to a blood tank. I was like, I was so game. It was really, really fun.
This is
It's
probably
kind of
like
like
just
existential. I don't know.
right.
You're dying, but you're not dying. So you feel this sense of power that you've like conquered death by, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's really fun.
I mean, it's your job as an actor, but like you really sold it. Like you looked like someone who's getting eaten. Sometimes in like horror movies, when someone's getting killed or stabbed, I feel like I was like, that's not how you would react. But you really like seemed like that shit hurt. Like that was not a fun time. Like, how did you get there emotionally where you're just that pained, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would say that I'm a nerd when it comes to acting. And so I did all of my back homework, all of that kind of stuff, building a story and coming up with substitutions for what it would be like. And I kept myself in that emotional space all day, thinking about sacrificing yourself for someone you love and what would drive you to do that, all of that.
Yeah. I had some hope for you. I was like, okay, she got bit in the arm. That's bad. But, they can just cut off the arm. And then they like cut to Luke and then they cut back to you. And you're just getting completely torn apart. And I was like, oh no. Oh God, it's
That's
a wrap.
The thing. Like on the show, you never know just how dead you are because there will be things where like, if we don't see you come back as a zombie, then maybe they'll revive you. And so like part of me holds out hope that even though you see me get like taken in by the like horde of zombies, that there's some future where I fought them off and you didn't see it because it happened off screen because I'm not a walker. But no, I was
you'd be the Superman of survivors if you did that. That would be incredible.
I would really, yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, yeah, making it to the finale is really impressive. I mean, that's an episode, it's a good bookend. A lot of people are going to watch that episode from here on out. Like you're just always going to be seen. Like that's got to be kind of cool. Like how did your friends and family react to that?
So it's funny because I would say that a couple of my girlfriends won't watch it very sweetly because they don't like seeing me in pain and also being devoured.
That's weird. Why wouldn't they like that?
Why wouldn't they like that?
It's a weird group of friends.
I know. I should get rid of them and get
You should get rid of them, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I have some friends who are very squeamish when it comes to blood, and also don't like seeing me die. So some of them haven't seen it, but my family have seen it very sweetly. I call my mom my publicist because because one side of my family is Greek and the other side of my family is Italian, and so I have a huge family, and she's the one that like lets everybody know when I'm in things. And
gotcha. That's very nice. She texts everybody.
She tells
the mailman.
Yeah. Craig, our mailman. Yes, indeed.
Yep. The guy at Kroger hears it. Everyone knows. Everyone's rooting for you. That's really exciting.
Yeah. It's funny because
really
actually I had a conversation about this with my mailman, Craig. And I think it's because my mom told him. So
shout out to mailman Craig. He's just doing God's work. Mailman Craig. He's getting all the gossip around the neighborhood. He
really is. Yeah, it's true.
He's like, this one girl got devoured, but just in a TV show.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. So what was that? How many more days of shooting did they have after you got devoured? Or were you one of the last scenes? Like how, I know they shoot out of sequence, obviously.
Yeah, no, I think they do. Yeah, out of sequence. And there's so much to shoot, especially in that finale. There was just like so much ground to cover. I think I shot like a week into what was probably like a 2 or 3 week finale episode. But I still got to have like a nice send off and got to say goodbye to everybody. Did you have like a death dinner? I know some characters have like the death dinners or some kind of send off. Yeah, no, that's definitely a tradition on the show is that people have their death dinners and everyone toasts them. And it's a really cute tradition. But unfortunately, I had to leave from set to go to a family event. So basically like they wrapped me up. I got in the van and I was like wiping blood off and was going, I think I was actually wearing this exact outfit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was covered in blood and was like wiping makeup and blood off of me as they drove me to the airport and tried to get as much off as possible because it looked really conspicuous to have a passenger show up just like covered in gore. Covered in gore, yeah. Yeah. The TSA is very concerned. Ma'am, are you okay? Ma'am? Are you okay? You have some brain in your hair? Yeah. All right. Sure. That was definitely something that, going home to my hotel room every day And they like spray my hair brunette, and like there's like gunk, there's like brain bits and like all kinds of, fake gore on me. And I was so sorry for whoever had to clean the shower after I would shower, because it would just be brown and red, and it looked like I had murdered someone in the shower.
Right. It's like Psycho.
It is pretty psycho. Yeah.
Wow. When they like bite your arm, I guess that's just a fake arm, huh?
No, that's my arm.
That's your arm?
That's my arm. Yeah. What did they do for that day? So Gino, who's the head of special effects makeup with Greg, or maybe it's Greg and Gino's under him, I don't know. He had like a sock that he put on my arm with like a plastic piece that had some like stocking bits come out that looked like ligament. And it was covered by this like plastic kind of thing that stretches like skin, and he painted the whole thing and airbrushed it, and underneath that was a hose that had the blood line.
Amazing.
And so it's my arm that that the stunt guy Alex was biting, and it's really wild to look at your own arm and the flesh coming off of it. And I think the first time we went for a take, my body went a little cold because it's so realistic, and then the blood starts coming out and you're like, oh my god.
How many times did you do that? I mean, that's such like a big emotional reaction you had. Like, I can't imagine doing that more than like 2 or 3 times. Like,
yeah, we did that quite a few times. We had to
quite
do
a few times.
And angles, and I'm also supposed to be stabbing him, and so
you were multitasking. Once blood is squirting out of my arm, I don't know if I could fight back. I'm out. I'm like, all right. For that reason, I'm out.
Yeah, it was a hurdle. The first time that we went for a take, I did go a little cold and then have to like shock myself back into being present. And then after that, I was like, I am invincible. I have conquered death. Let's do this like 700 times. And I had such a great time with it.
Wow. Has it made you less squeamish at all? Or have you always been like down for like horror stuff?
It's funny because I feel like there are a lot of doctors in my family. And I'm also trained as a birth doula. So blood in real life is not really an issue for me. Yeah.
Okay. We'll go back to that in a second. Yes. Okay. So blood's not really an issue.
Blood in real life is not an issue. Blood on TV is. Okay. And I don't know if it's because it's the theatricalization where you've got music and, you're cutting very dramatically and it just looks very scary, but blood on TV has always been a problem for me. And I think after this experience, it doesn't bother me as much.
What was the mood on the set? Like, I mean, filming the last episode, there must have been some kind of energy in the air, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it was really, for me at least, it was very joyous in the episodes leading up to the end, especially since I think, Dan and I were very fresh because everyone else had been like on this grueling shooting schedule. And like he and I showed up and we're just like excited to see everyone, and it felt like a party. So it was very joyous. And then the last episode, I was really very focused and keyed into that sacrifice scene. And so I was very somber that day. But I think everybody, there was a mixed bag of emotions. People were sad to be leaving the show, but also happy for all that we've accomplished. So it really kind of just ran the gamut.
So you did it. You wrapped The Walking Dead's over. It feels kind of surreal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's wild. I know that there are people who've reached out who said that they've had this as their Sunday ritual for like 12 years now. And so it's kind of that phantom limb thing. Like, what do I do now that this show is gone? But I know that they have so many spinoffs that are coming that'll like help bridge that gap. But yeah, it's wild. I mean, this has been a part of TV history just in the number of seasons and the viewership that they've had. It's crazy.
Yeah. And you're a part of that. It's like being part of the last, being part of The Sopranos or something, or Cheers. Yeah. Like you're just always going to be, and I'm sure, you're going to go on beyond and do things bigger than The Walking Dead. But, I mean, that's still cool that you're like part of this whole series and experience.
So cool. Yeah. And I think it really like whet my appetite for being on grittier shows.
For being devoured more.
Yeah, definitely. I loved that. It was nice to like show up to set, and I spent as much time in the hair and makeup trailer as the boys did, and that never happens. And just like how raw it was, and I loved like getting down and dirty and being in the woods and in the rain, and that was all so much fun.
What was the first time watching the episode? Was it at that finale event?
Yeah, I was at the finale event, which was crazy. And that crowd was great because it was not only do you have like the cast and crew that are there, but you had people who were like, diehard fans seeing
Yeah.
it for the first time. And, when you work in TV and film, you don't often get to have that huge theatrical communal experience that I miss from doing theater. And so it definitely gave me a little taste of that, to hear everybody's reactions. And it was a really lively audience, which was great.
I missed that. I was at the Walking Dead season 7 premiere when Glenn and, spoiler alert, when Glenn dies, and Abraham. And it was at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. It was pouring. It started pouring down rain halfway through the episode. We're outside, and just to hear like the screams of horror, like it was pretty haunting.
Oh my God.
But to watch it with a live audience, I was like, oh, this is how it should be watched. It should be, each of these episodes are like mini movies. I mean, they're like an hour. So it's like, I've seen it at MSG with the season 6 premiere. And every time like Norman Reedus would come on screen, everyone cheers. Like it's like Michael Jordan or something. Like it's it's pretty wild. Like you're right. I didn't even even as a social media manager back then, I didn't realize the impact it had on people until I was in a giant crowd with them. And this is how they're all like every Sunday, probably,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it represents something bigger than just a TV show in a way, because of what the spine of the show is and how much we talk about like the Walking Dead family. And I think it's a show that has zombies in it, but it's not for me really about the zombies. It's about the human experience and like what would you do under the most extreme circumstances, and the best of people as well. So yeah, it means a lot to everyone. It means a lot to me too.
I don't know if it was Gimple. Someone basically described it as kind of like a soap opera that just happened to have zombies. Like it is more about the human experience, like you said. And I'm really interested to see where it goes from, Negan and Maggie having a show, Lauren and JDM. Like that's of the two people you could have imagined. Like I wonder how many finale versions there were, if there were many.
Well, it's interesting because the script that they had sent us didn't have Denai and Andy in it. And that was
interesting.
A surprise. So yeah, the way that they wrapped it up in the script was pretty much what we saw on screen, except for that button at the end where they teased the new show. So that was a surprise for everyone in the audience.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's too. I don't know how many versions they had, but I know that I can't imagine trying to wrap up 11 seasons of a show that's that loved. So they must have worked on it for ages.
Yeah, it kind of had like the Return of the King ending where they like you keep thinking it's going to end and then they hit you with another scene. But this time it was like really exciting, like Lord of the Rings, right? Yeah. Jesus Christ, end the movie. But this one, it was just like, oh my God, there's a time jump. Oh my God, it's Andrew Lincoln. Oh my God, it's Denai.
Yeah, there was a version where we see, I can't remember if this actually happens in the finale, forgive me, but like I think that there was a version where we saw an older version.
Yes, I saw pictures of that. Like they shot like a actual time jump, like a real big time jump.
Yeah, that's what I had read in the script. And then I think that they scrapped that for what we had in the end.
Yeah, I guess because that would kind of step on the sequel shows they're making, I guess. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. But in the comics, they skip ahead 25 years and Carl's still alive and he is married to Sophia, who's still alive. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And Lydia's kind of like on the side, like a girl he kind of just hangs out with on the side sometimes. It's great. You got to read it. It's a crazy ending.
Yeah.
I was worried because series finales are really tough. You can have really good ones like Breaking Bad. You can have questionable ones like How I Met Your Mother. Which still makes me mad to this day. You can have a lot of them, but I think it stuck the landing, don't you?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely do. I feel like people have also said that they enjoyed it, which, we make it for the fans. So that's what really matters to me, at least. And yeah, no, I think they did a good job.
All right. Yeah. So what have you been up to since then? I know you've been promoting, you're in like a short film called, is it Miso? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
tell me a little bit about that. Let's get that experience.
I'll tell you all about it. Yeah.
Tell me all about it.
I'll tell you all about it. It's like my baby. Yeah. I produced it and I also act in it. It's a 10-minute narrative short film about self-managed abortion, which could not be more timely. When we shot the film, Roe was still intact. And
the good old days.
The good old days. Yeah. Which is crazy. And right now we're doing a couple of things with it. One, we're doing an Academy Awards campaign. So we find out in 2 days from the time that we're recording this now, if we're shortlisted or not. So fingers crossed.
My God. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Crazy because it was very independently produced. So that would be Definitely an underdog story. What, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And what else are we doing with it? In early 2023, we are going to go to Congress with the film because it's about self-managed abortion and abortion doulas. And we're going to have an event with the National Partnership for Women and Families. And we're going to, talk to members of Congress and different reproductive rights leaders and then maybe do a college screening series of it after that. Like we created it in part as an advocacy piece in preparation for a moment like this when abortion rights would be stripped away. And so we're just trying to meet the moment and democratize the information in the film as much as possible.
Wow, that's incredible. It makes so much sense for you because you've always been very much an activist on social media and from when I talked to you before. So it's cool that not only are you putting out a piece of content that speaks to that, but it's really more of seems like a jumping off point for you to have like deeper conversations with people who can actually change things or people who grow into people who could change things, so
100%. I mean, I think that the way that we change hearts and minds is through story because it presents an opportunity for empathy. And, I work with a woman who actually was raised as a very conservative religious person. She was very anti-choice and in part through story and narrative, she is now pro-choice. And so that's the kind of window that I hope that this film will occupy for people to just kind of humanize the experience of people who pursue abortions and see that people do it for all manner of reasons and those reasons are valid and they should have the right to make those decisions if it's, safe and good for them.
Alex, as always, great to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time during the holidays, especially. I really appreciate it.
You too. Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, enjoy South Carolina.
Thank you so much. All right, that was my interview with Alex Sgambati. Were you guys shocked to hear that there was actually an alternate ending to this show, like with the flash forward?
Not super shocked, but I'm shocked I guess surprised that they went as far as casting and filming it.
Yeah, there are lots of TV shows that will do like, and Lost had a bunch of like fake out endings. Like it's not rare for like TV shows with big finales to like do some alternate stuff, but like it seemed like they were entertaining this direction to the point that like they really like shot and cast all of these folks who like that footage will never see like the light of day. But
you don't think they'll put it on like the DVD or something?
I just don't know where it would like. I mean, maybe like later for like some like super special edition thing like down the line maybe, but because you've also got to like think about or plant the seeds because ostensibly like you're doing the spinoffs at the same time too, where you're thinking about it. So like you'd probably have to put something in that 10-year gap of like, hey, remember that time that we fought CRM and that was the whole thing and Rick came back and that was wild, huh? Or like some sort of Easter eggs about that. And that seems like heavier lifting than just like get the same actors and let them just like cook for a 1 year later deal.
And I don't know that people like were desperately so needed to see. I did not need to see a jump that far ahead in the future with how advanced the Commonwealth was and knowing that they've established. We got a year later being like, cool, we've had a year of stability and we're really building a foundation, that is philosophically as good as we can make it. That was plenty. So I think, I agree with you, Woody. Like, why paint yourself into that corner if you can satisfy audiences without doing so?
I was thirsty for this kind of ending, actually, because that is how the comics end. The comics do a 25-year time jump, and we see Carl as like a burly man, and he's married to Sophia, who survives the comics, and Lydia is like a side friend he has that he visits occasionally. And we got to see, Michonne is the judge, Michonne Hawthorne, we learn. And we get all sort of these like catch-ups, where, Magna and Yumiko are still together and Princess and Mercer, etc. So I'm really hungry. I hope this isn't like a DVD or something. Like it's crazy to think that they would like cast all these people, dress them and do all, shoot all these scenes and just for them, or just one scene maybe, for them not to be around. I actually sent you guys the picture for those who haven't seen it from left to right. It's the grown-up kids. We have a much taller, manlier looking version of RJ, followed by Herschel, Coco, who looks a spitting image of Rosita. We have Gracie, and then Judith.
These Walking Dead teens would kick the shit out of the Walking Dead Beyond kids. Like
100%. Also, I did not watch season 2 of World Beyond, nor have I caught up on Fear since I left Skybound. So sorry to those wondering.
How dare you?
All right, so that brings us to the actual ending we had, which, as Alex mentioned, when they saw Rick and Michonne at the very end, that was a surprise to most of them. Most of them didn't know that they were going to end the episode that way. So what did you think?
It took me a minute to really catch up with what was happening and the whole like CRM of it all. I think they tried to, in the span of about 45 seconds, explain how Michonne was able to find the phone, the bag, and the boots, and like start to like follow the trail of Rick. Also let you know that like Rick is part of the larger like CRM storyline. Also, Michonne is on some sort of adventure. Maybe these two things will come together. Also, here is this like quick montage of like all of like the major characters. And then I always get a little bit like nostalgic and melancholy seeing those bits where like Scrubs did this too, I think, where they show you like, here's all the characters, here are memories. Look, what a wonderful, strange trip it's been. Where maybe the real Walking Dead were the friends we met along the way. And then you like, so all this is happening, and I'm also thinking to myself in my like dumb little like wannabe podcaster brain being like, well, there's no Earl, so I'm going to talk about this later. And like Luke died at the beginning, so we don't need to show him. Like, here are the important bits. It didn't make me like turn off the proverbial TV set and like really like sit there with my thoughts and go like, what a great time. It had a lot of work to do. I would say it landed most of it. It definitely got me going, well, I wonder what's going to happen with Rick and Michonne, so I guess that mission was accomplished. Overall, it was fine. Satisfying, sure. I could have had maybe 5 less We Are the Ones Who Live, and we could have accomplished the same thing. And
we could have 50 less, I think. But you want to wrap it up in a neat bow. But Alexander, what did you think of the ending that we got?
I was thinking of the ending, more to the ending of the series is how this episode functioned. Is that the ending of the ending of the episode itself? I'm kind of with you guys. I thought it could have used a bit of an editor's hand, and I think like having thought about it for a little while, I like the way they dealt with Rick and Michonne. I thought that made sense structurally, but I thought it would have been nice had it kind of functioned like Rick's death in like Rick's death, or the end of the episode of Rick's death back in season 9. And just how like I really like I was not expecting that. I legit thought he was dead, and I was like, wow, that sucks, but this makes sense. And then to have this sort of like okay, and this pretty spectacular lift out with a 180 callback to that music from the pilot. I thought this did not land quite as well as that did in terms of a reveal, but that said, I think everybody knew like, well, this has got to get resolved. So I don't know that it was worth trying to hammer in a twist to what is already season 11, a very complex storyline. So like the ending, like I would have preferred we had been able to move into a feature film of this a lot faster instead of this kind of thing, but this is what we got. And I think a miniseries is going to be fun. But at the same time, as a whole, like holistically, this episode and the story as an end to the series itself, I think I'm going to be redundant if I say it again now, but like I thought it was complete. I don't feel lacking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that the series is able to top itself in terms of like mind-blowing moments. Just like I think it's outgrown that. I think its responsibility was to tie up the story in a faithful way. Like I was tuning in at this point more for relationships and sort of the narrative in the story, as opposed to like how much horrible can humans get twists. So I liked it. I was satisfied by this. If my mind wasn't blown off my neck.
I would have preferred, like I said, I would have preferred the massive time jump, and we just kind of catch up with some folks and see that they're all doing well. And you can even do the We Are the Ones Who Live, because I get it. The whole show is about being dead and the Walking Dead, and they're like, actually, this is about the people who lived through it. And they did hammer that point home a lot. And you could have taken out the Rick and Michonne part, but I get it. They have to set up a series, which I don't know if anyone's talking about, was supposed to be a movie that was going to play in theaters. And it was written and rewritten. Honestly, I never thought that movie was going to have a lot of legs at the box office, because, you're asking audience members outside of like people who watch the show, you're asking people to watch a movie about an 11 season show. That's too much homework,
Well, I mean, like, it's The Walking Dead, I think, definitely had numbers to be like, all right, like, similar to Star Trek, this can support a movie, like a movie, maybe not a series. And so it can support the money we put into one of them. But I agree with you. I was like, I don't think it's going to be more than one. I don't see this TV series at this point in season 9, maybe in season 5 or 6. I didn't see it at that point being a box office smash hit. Like,
Yeah.
So I agree. I think I like a limited series versus a feature that might not have done very well. So I hopefully we get a really nice long, like, 8 to 10 episode journey with them.
I agree, and we'll see what happens. But overall, The Walking Dead, as the legacy show, is over, and I guess it is about the friends you met along the way, is what he said. How do you guys feeling about it? How do you guys feeling about the overall impact and where it leaves us?
I want to throw that to you first, Johnny, because you've spent
Okay.
a fair amount of your. If we can get a little personal and
Sure.
philosophical here, you've dedicated a fair amount of your professional life to this show, and
Yeah.
you've followed it and been embedded with the fan base for a fair amount of time. You've put your heart and soul into this creative work. How are you feeling at the end of it?
It's bittersweet. Hey guys, it is Johnny from the future. Before you hear how I actually feel about The Walking Dead ending, which is very bittersweet, I've decided that this podcast is far too long for just one episode, so we are splitting it into 2 parts. The second part will come out shortly after this one, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. We have a lot more to talk about after this. If you guys are true Talk Dead to Me or Walking Dead fans, you're going to love it. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I will see you in part 2.